So welcome to the prep series. This is the first video that we recorded for the prep. Right now we're 11 weeks out from IFBB Muscle Contest Ireland, which is a pro qualifier. So far I'm 3 weeks into prep and there's still loads left to play with. This is the easy part of prep, where the calories are high, energy is really high, and I suppose focus is high. So obviously strength is still really there, which is great. But I know obviously it's going to get a bit tougher. I'm prepping under Billy Bourne from Derry, who's a highly accomplished competitor himself and a coach. And we actually won the under 80 kilo at this 2 years ago in 2019 and got into the kind of pro qualifier pose down. So that's the goal this year again, is to get into that overall pose down for the IFBB Pro card. That'll be the dream. This time we're going under 90 kilos. So we're bumping up in weight class. So I've added on a good bit of muscle tissue since then. And I suppose, yeah, look, this prep is great because I'm now an online coach and I'm working from home. So I suppose recovery and schedule are in my favor now. So I'm really looking forward to the prep as a whole, and you guys are going to come along with us. We just finished up a back workout there, which you'll see now. And essentially we just did compound lifting along with some lat isolation and then finished off then with some biceps. So have a look, hope you enjoy and hope you get some good tips from that, and like, subscribe and all that crack. So the first working exercise that we're doing is a T-bar row. And one thing I'd always stress with T-bar rows is this is trash. Throw this in the bin. Pretty much no good for a T-bar, because as you're doing the T-bar and pulling up your sternum, you're going to get internal rotation of the shoulders as you come up to that top point. And what we want is a neutral grip. So we're going to aim for a neutral grip, which we have behind us. And it's just an attachment that will go onto the bar to give us that neutral grip, to allow the elbows to come back fully without getting that internal rotation in the shoulders, allowing us to fully contract the lats. So the way we're working with the rep scheme here is a pyramid. And we're going to pyramid up, so going basically 10 or 12 reps to the first set, 10 for set 2, top set then being the 8 repper. We're going to come really close to failure on that 8 rep set, so it's kind of all out for that final set. That's the aim anyway here. Class yoke. Just give me a free one, like. Do you know? If you want to sponsor me, yeah, it's a free one. Send me another one, I could do it too. So we're getting up towards the kind of top work sets now. We're doing sets of 8 here, 3 work sets of 8. The one thing we're not doing is we're trying not to bounce the weight off the floor too much, and try to kind of gently touch the floor if possible. Try to keep like isometric tension to the lats. So we're trying to keep tension in the lats the whole way down. So we're going to try to literally just be as controlled as possible on the lowering portion here. And again, everything done in a good cadence, so we're not speeding up the reps as we get through the set, the same cadence for the whole set. Do a little bit of isolation work now for the lats. Since we've gone from the heavy compound stuff, we're focused more on just lat isolation now. And again, when we're doing our pull down movements, I'll tend to use a cable over a lot of set machines, because the problem with using a lot of machines is the way the angles are fixed, and because you're pulling from a low pulley, so you're pulling from the axis being below you, you get a kind of a funny angle on it. So at least with the cable we can choose the angles we're pulling from, and we're going to go unilateral, so one side at a time with these guys, and pulling right down into the hip. So we're pulling towards the pocket rather than pulling up high and kind of scrunching up with your traps. We're going to keep our traps dropped down and pull down towards the hip while we're doing this. When you're looking to do these, you're better off being very fixed. So some people will do these kneeling down. They'll be pulling when they're kneeling down on one knee. You're a little bit better off having the the angle of the bench here, so you can stay in that like locked in fixed position. We're trying to go for stability here, so we want everything as fixed as possible. And the other thing we're looking at as well is, as I'm coming back to the top here, I'm not letting my shoulder blade pull out. I'm keeping my shoulder blades locked in place here and just isolating my lats, so I'm not pulling down and then stretching out that arm. I'm trying to keep everything fixed in place here and locked in tight. So for these guys, the pullovers, what we're looking for is to get, again, really locked in. And again, this is a bit of isolation work for the lats again. But what's really important is with these machines that you stay super locked in. So you want to make sure that your seat is high enough that you can actually drive down to the elbows. We're trying not to pull with the hands, so pull at the top of the bar, but try to drive the elbows, drive the pads down all the way. Rather than trying to pull the frame, we're trying to think to drive the pads down with your elbows to get that full isolation for these. So just make sure you're high enough with your seat and super locked into the pads. Got to be clean. COVID and all that. So we're going to finish off then with a little bit of biceps. So we're going to do 2 exercises for biceps. Contrary to popular belief, you don't need to spend hours and hours doing biceps, for most of us anyway. So we're going to do a supinated exercise, again, with a nice bit of support. So we're going to use the Strive preacher curl, and then we're going to do a hammer curl as well then to finish off. So the good thing is with these this is a Strive piece of machinery, so it has actually different loading points. So what you're looking at is basically the beginning phase. So when you're in the stretch phase here, you can load the mid-range and you can load the end range there when you're in the contracted position. I want to personally load the mid-range and the end range at the top contracted position on this, so that's why I've loaded it this way. But obviously as well, you can actually do drop sets in this as well, mechanical drop sets if you want to change the loading pattern. So for example, like I could have 3 plates on, and then as I fail then towards the hardest portion then, which is the kind of the beginning phase, I can pull that off, and then I can strip actually the whole way down until I'm at the lockout, and then I'm basically just literally going until my muscle is at absolute failure that way. So I'm going from taking the weakest part away, second weakest and third weakest, and that way then you can do what's called a mechanical drop set. So these machines are gold dust. So now we're going to have to back off on the first portion there. We added on the 5 there at the start of the lift, which made things a lot more difficult. So just for that last set now, we're going to have to back off again at the starting phase there, because that's where we're a little bit weak. So with the hammer curls, there's a couple of ways of doing them. Obviously, we can do them this way or do them cross body. The only issue I see with people doing them cross body is that they'll tend to jack up their shoulder as they're pulling across. So they're leveraging it to their trap and their shoulder joint and not letting the actual bicep do the work. And the reason we want to have a hammer variation as well as a supinated variation is we're working both sides of the bicep. So you're working your brachialis by having that hammer grip. So it's actually really important that you're working this guy, your brachialis as well, when you're doing biceps, that you're not just all doing supinated grip. You do need to actually have some sort of neutral grip movement in there as well. So biceps are actually one of my weakest body parts, so it's kind of important that I do them right and kind of not cheat myself or kind of swing anything, that I try to isolate them as best possible. And one of the things I've noticed with biceps is I've gotten, even though they're genetically weak, I've gotten my best results out of them by doing things really, really fixed and generally doing high frequency. So I'll train biceps anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week, even at certain points of the year. Right now I'm doing biceps twice a week, but the frequency is key for me rather than trying to go really heavy. Because one of the issues is if you try to curl really heavy all the time, you're gonna end up with really bad tendonitis and wear down the joint. So because it's a smaller muscle group, the higher frequency and kind of higher volume work tends to work better for most people, unless you've got massive thick joints, which I don't have.